Hello, you. Jamie Magic here. And I want to help you so that you can feel really calm and centered and clear and balanced about whatever it is that you need to do next. So, whether that's getting ready to go to school, or if it's getting dressed, or if it's getting ready to go to a class like gymnastics or soccer or to a birthday party or to someone's house, right? Maybe to another parent's house or another family member's house, whatever it might be. And, those moments in our life are called transitions. And transitions are little changes. They're changes from one moment and one environment to another moment and another environment. And so, when we're transitioning between activities, for example, like when you're at school and you go from, let's say, a class that your classroom to the library, right? That's a transition. And the environment is different, right? When you transition from the noisy classroom and then you're walking down the hall and then you're in the library, we have to be very, very quiet in the library, right? So we have to control our bodies in the library. We have to be very calm bodies, right? Well, and then if we transition over to recess and we're on the playground, are you going to be very, very quiet? No, you're going to be shouting and giggling and swinging from the monkey bars and having a grand old time, as you should, because you're outside and it's time to get your wiggles and your jiggles out, right? So as you can see, there's different times of the day when we are doing different things and the environment is different. And you might feel different doing those different things, right? So if you're watching this in the morning and let's say that you need to get dressed, but getting dressed is really hard for you to do because maybe your body talks to you very loudly. And when you put clothes on, maybe it doesn't always feel good on your skin. Maybe it feels like it's itching or burning or mushy and smushy, or it's too tight or it's too loose or it's too scratchy or there's a tag or there's a seam, or this shirt felt really good yesterday, but now it feels like fire on my skin. If you know what this feels like, you know how hard that can be. It's also a very common thing. That means that a lot of people have the experience, including, you know who, me. That's right. And if I had had hypnosis when I was a kid, boy, could that have been a very different situation. But I didn't know these tricks at the time. So it feels really good for my heart to share these tricks with you and your family so that you can do these wonderful different techniques and different methods to help you move through the things in your life that are a little bit hard sometimes. So when it comes to anything sensory, and what do you think I mean by that, right? Sensory, I'm talking about your sense of smell, right? I'm talking about your sense of taste. I'm talking about your eyesight, your ability to see, and I'm talking about your listening ears, right? And I'm talking about something else too, and that's touch. Touch, the way things feel. Okay? So, we can sometimes have more trouble processing, okay, understanding and making sense of and feeling comfortable with certain sensations depending on how we're built, how we're wired. And every human is a little bit different. And what I experience in my body is being what's called very sensitive. I'm just really sensitive. And the way that I've always been sensitive is pretty much every way that you can be. I have a very, very sensitive body when it comes to pain. And guess what I did today? friend, look at what I got there. Do you see what I have there? That is my Band-Aid with my little cotton ball. Because guess what? I had to have a needle put in my arm, and I had to have blood drawn today. For a doctor's appointment, I had to have blood taken. Well, that used to cause me so much fear and worry and anxiety. And I have a few tricks that I use to get myself through that experience. And, some people, it's not a big deal for them, and other people, it's a really, really big deal. So I've always had that sensitivity to pain or discomfort. Clothing, if something's too scratchy or it's rubbing. Oh, here's one. If my sock falls down into my shoe, if I'm wearing a sock and it when it rolls down, it gets all bunched up in your shoe. I cannot handle that. It is so hard for me to handle. Here's another thing that's really sensitive for me. We live by the beach, and sometimes walking back from the beach and your feet are all sandy, but then you got to put your flip-flops on. Oh, I don't like the way it feels if there's sand in my shoe. Oh, no, thank you. No, thank you. So look, here's the thing. I have learned, though, how to take those feelings that feel really, really big and really distracting, and sometimes they're so loud that I can't pay attention to anything else. I have learned how to think a little bit differently so that I can not focus on that feeling as much, and that way it doesn't bother me as much, so that I can get through what I have to get through. So I don't want you to think that hypnosis is about taking away your sensitivity, because it's not. It's actually your superpower. It is your superpower that you're so sensitive. And that's what I learned too, because you see, not only was I sensitive to the way things felt in my body, but I'm very sensitive to how things taste and smell. And I'm not really that sensitive to sight, but I'm definitely very sensitive with my ears. I cannot focus if it's really loud. It's very distracting for me. So I can't I can't read and listen to loud music, or do work on the computer and listen to the TV blaring in the other room and music coming from over there and people talking. It's too much. My brain is overloaded, and it just doesn't work for my brain. So rather than being upset with myself that my body is this way and that my brain is this way, I have learned to accept myself and go, hey, you know what? This is just the way things are in my body. And some of it I can control and some of it I can't. But what I've learned to do with the parts that I can't control is I've learned how to turn the volume up or down on them depending on what I need. And what I mean by that, how you turn the volume up on your body, that is all about where we focus our attention. So where we put our attention, where your focus goes, energy flows. So if you're focusing, for example, today when I was getting my blood drawn and they had to put the needle in, I knew that if I looked at the needle and if I looked at it happening, I was going to feel that so strong because all of my senses would have been engaged. So what I know to do, because I'm a sensitive person, is I knew I couldn't look at it. So there you go. I'm protecting that particular sense, right? I looked at my little girl instead, who was sitting over yonder. And you know what else I did? I did a super cool trick, which was I breathed in and out slowly and deeply. In and out. And guess what else I did? Well, I have a little trick where I put a little mark on my finger so you can see, but on the side of my hand is, I have, on the side of your fingernail, I guess I should say, can you see that? I don't know, I'm twisting my hand in a funny way. So I have this cuticle right here, right? It's right next to the side of your fingernail. So on my thumb, okay, it's right there. So what I do when I have to get a shot, if I have to go get a vaccine, for example, or if I have to have blood drawn, right, because they want to look for things, what I do is I actually take my fingernail and I press it against these little spots, just like that. And you might be like, oh, why are you pinching yourself like that? Well, I'm pinching myself like that to create a pain that I am in control of. And it's not a scary pain. It's something I'm doing to myself. And I can control the pressure and I can control the discomfort by, how much I push. And what's really cool about this is I do it right before they give me, the needle. And what that allows me to do is it allows me to create a sensation that I feel down here in my fingertips or in my fingernail, by my fingernails, instead of where I might be getting the shot or the needle in the vein. So I'm not looking at it, right? So I'm looking over this way. I'm creating a sensation that's drawing my attention and all of my focus down into my fingertips. And remember what I said, where your focus goes, energy flows. So guess what? My body is not like concentrating on the part that might be sore, the part that might be affected by a needle, because my attention is elsewhere. So what happens is I've turned down the volume, how loud or how painful that needle will feel. So I do feel it. I'm not going to lie to you. I do feel it. I feel the prick and I feel some sensations. And I notice that I'm feeling it. And I breathe. I start talking to somebody in the room. I push a little harder if I need to on my little pressure points there. And that's how I do it. And by the time, I've gone through that little, repertoire, they're done. They got everything they needed and it's over. So that is something that is really good. And by the way, if you do have a fear of needles, and if having blood drawn or getting shots is very scary for you, it's really, really important to let the nurse or the doctor know that, so that they know not to show it to you and they tell you when to look away, and that they can be very, very extra sensitive about how everything is done. There's also some tricks that you can do if you're feeling particularly scared about needles. And that is one thing, for example, is you can practice like sort of pinching the parts of your arm that you might feel, where you might get the shot. You could pinch it a little bit and start to create like a sense of, oh, okay, that's the feeling's going to be somewhere in here. And I'm just kind of desensitizing, making less sensitive that area. You can also do things like some people will take like a hairbrush, for example, and they'll brush their arm a little bit to like desensitize the area. Another thing people have done is they've practiced poking their arm with like a pen that has like a pen cap on it, so you're not hurting yourself and you're not puncturing, making a hole in your skin, but you're just like, you're pushing. If the pen cap has a point on it, then it's like, practicing that. And while they're doing that, okay, if you're doing these types of things where you're touching the spot and trying to create a little pressure or a little, puncture feeling, but you're not actually breaking the skin, it's really important to, while you're doing it, to just be breathing in, breathing out, or think about going to your favorite place. Okay? So thinking about being in your favorite place and your favorite smells and your favorite feelings, and, giving your mind a job to do other than like feeling the pain. And notice that when you do that, when you distract yourself while maybe mom or dad or, pokes you with a pen that's covered so you're not hurt, just notice how you can adjust the way it feels. If you can change the intensity of it, it's pretty cool how when you put your mind somewhere else, you can change the way something feels. So that is a tip about going to the doctor and getting a shot or blood drawn like I had to have done today. But what we were actually going to talk about before I went down a whole rabbit hole, I do that sometimes. My attention kind of goes all over the place. What I wanted to do with you today, though, was I wanted to share with you, I just mentioned the favorite place. let's take a moment to think about your favorite place. Okay. So, I mentioned that maybe you're in a situation right now where you're getting ready to go get dressed. And because you're getting ready to go get dressed, and if your body is very loud to you and it doesn't like certain clothes, that can be stressful, right? And you might have big feelings about that. So, something that can be very helpful is the same thing I was just talking about with the needles and going to the doctor, is the way that we focus our attention and just getting ourselves in the right emotional state, like our body's feeling the way we want to feel and thinking the way we want to think, so that we can step into the experience from a place that's just a little bit more calm, so that we don't get triggered, right, with the big feelings. Because when those clothes are itchy, for example, or scratchy or uncomfortable, what happens next? Your brain starts to go a bit cuckoo, right? And then it starts to want to like kick and punch things and scream and yell. And it's like, I hate you. I hate everybody, right? And what else probably happens? You probably start whining. You probably start yelling and crying, just feeling like, oh, I hate this, right? I can't do this. This is driving me crazy. So that's a really hard feeling. And if you have that feeling, I'm really sorry, because it's a hard feeling. And I do understand it because, like I shared with you, I've had it myself. Now, what we can do, obviously, is we can have clothing that is not going to be problem clothing. And what I mean by that is itchy materials that are scratchy, like wool or really rough fibers in clothing. So ask mom, dad, or the person who takes care of you to try to find like soft, soft cotton material. Try to find clothing that doesn't have seams, thick seams in the clothing. Tags, all the tags. Try to get stuff without tags, but if you can't, we just cut the tags out of our clothes, and you can do that. You can cut the tags out, and that's a great way to, just be able to wear something without the tag bothering you. If you find a pair of socks that you like, that really work well for you, maybe they have no seams in them, maybe they're very soft and smooth. See if mom, dad, or the person who takes care of you can get you some more like that in different colors. And if you find a kind of leggings or pants that feel really comfortable, try to get some more like that. And remember, just cut out those itchy, scratchy tags. You don't need them. And, give yourself different colors, and then just put your clothing, in drawers that are easy for you to get to, and put things where you know where they are, like, oh, these shirts go with these pants. That makes it easier too. And so then when it's time to go get dressed, you have some options, and you don't just have to wear the same one thing every day. Because I know that you'd like to wear other clothes, but maybe you don't really feel like you can, because maybe you don't feel like you can trust that it's going to feel okay. And you know that if it doesn't feel okay, your body and your brain are going to go cuckoo, right? And that's not something that you want to feel. So that might be why sometimes when mom or dad says, hey, let's put on this pair of pants because it's cold outside with these socks, you're like, no, thank you. I'm just going to wear those shorts that I know are comfortable, and I'm not wearing socks, or I am going to wear a sock, but it's the same sock I wear every day. And it's not that you're trying to be difficult. I really, really get that. I know you're not trying to be difficult or, spoiled or any of that stuff. Body sensitivity issues are a real thing. And here's the difference. It's not like you're thinking thoughts like, oh, I hate clothes, or oh, I want to be in control, so I'm going to choose to be difficult about what I wear. I'm only going to wear one thing because that's what I can control. Now, hey, sometimes in some cases that is what's going on, right? The kid might be thinking like, oh, I get bossed around all day long. I have no say in anything. This is someplace where I'm in control, right? Maybe it's what they eat and how they eat or when they eat, right? Or not being willing to try new foods. That might be an area where they're trying to create some sense of control. And that's understandable. It doesn't help you though, because it doesn't keep your body healthy. And so that's kind of not good. But, I understand that you know, children don't feel like they have a whole lot of control or freedom, or things aren't really up to them, right? They're being told what to do all day long. So I do understand that. But here's the thing. In most cases, you're not thinking about wanting to only wear one thing. You're actually responding to the way your body is feeling. And then the feeling in your body is causing you to feel really angry. And then you're connecting your feelings with thoughts and things you believe to be true. Like, I can't wear pants. Pants are awful. Or I hate socks and I'll never wear them. Or I just can't wear, long sleeve shirts. So do you see that difference? How in the one situation, it was like, oh, I had a thought like, oh, I want to be in control. I want to be the boss of my body. So I'm going to, only eat this kind of food. I'm only going to eat string cheese and nothing else. Or I'm never going to eat a green food of any kind, right? That might be a thought that child has. And maybe the thought is that, it's a thought that keeps bothering them. Like, oh gosh, if I eat a green vegetable, it's going to taste awful and I can't do that because I don't like the way that feels. So that might be something where the thought is causing the issue. But in some other cases, it's actually the feeling that we're afraid of, and that's what we're trying to avoid, and then we're creating thoughts about that feeling. So you can see how it's like cycle, right? One thing kind of feeds the next. So what's really important to understand about this is that you do have some control over this either way, okay? Some of it you just have to accept, hey, you got a sensitivity chip. You're just sensitive. And that is a superpower. Think about it this way. If you're really sensitive to the way things taste, it's like you've got super powered taste buds. And I bet you that you probably are going to be like an amazing cook or chef or baker, because you can taste things and you can create what's called flavor balance. And what else is great about being sensitive in your mouth is that you will be able to taste if something tastes not quite right. Yeah, no? If you're not going to if you're drinking milk and it tastes slightly off, you're like, you know what? I'm not going to drink any more of this milk. It tastes a little funky, a little sour, not the way it tasted yesterday. You know why that's great? Because drinking milk that's gone bad will make your stomach hurt really, really bad, right? And then you might feel sick. So having a superhero, sensitive mouth, it's not a bad thing. But it can be a problem when it gets in the way of you being able to eat healthy food and also being able to eat in a way that feels really comfortable and calm. And it's hard to only be allowed to eat a couple of things. That's really hard and it gets really boring. And then grown-ups give you a really hard time. And then you don't want to go to friends' houses because, you can't eat dinner at their house because you can't eat anything. And it's just so hard. I'm so sorry if you're going through that, but just know you're not alone. It's a very common thing. And there are things you can do for each one of these. And I will actually be creating videos about the different things you can do to help yourself if that's happening to you. So what I want to do today, though, is really dive into how we can create in your mind another place where you can go, where you can feel safe and you can feel calm and you can focus on things that feel really good rather than focusing on something that feels really bad. So stay tuned, because in the next video, I am going to show you exactly how to create your favorite place in your mind and how to do this very simple, maybe 2-minute exercise in the morning before you go and get dressed, or before you have to walk to school, or before you have to go to a birthday party or a play date, or dad's apartment or mom's apartment, if that's the situation that you're in and you have to make a transition, and the transition tends to make you feel a bit worried or sad or just not as comfortable. Sometimes our other sensory issues will become louder and harder to manage because we're feeling worried, and the sensitivity that we feel in our feelings get a little bit bigger. So stay tuned for the next video, and that is going to show you how to do a very simple self-hypnosis to get ready to make this transition in a much more peaceful way.